the internet.
KNTK FM Firth.
93.7 The Ticket.
This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, it is great to be with you here on 93.7 The Ticket for Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show. I'm Jake Bockoven alongside my tag team partner, back from injury, Augie Pena. Augie, how's it going this week?
It's going better. You know, I'm happy to be back. It felt weird not coming in last Sunday and, you know, talking some wrestling with you. That was a little good, but you did a great job of holding down the fort, and, you know, that's why you're the one prime for the singles run if we ever had to break up our tag team here. So
that's right. I had a little. It wasn't good enough, I guess. They put me right back in the tag team division the next week. No, it was fun. It was good. There was plenty to talk about because there has been plenty to talk about in WWE as of late as we kind of go through these premium lives events left and right. And of course, this week now we have Night of Champions to talk about, which was on Saturday from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Which even in of itself was a question here for the last couple of weeks with the stuff going on globally. But they made it happen, and I thought it was a pretty good show. Not a whole lot of not too much big on the match card, but ultimately crowning the Queen of the Ring and the King of the Ring. So we got plenty to talk about. We'll also talk about SmackDown and Raw as well. But of course, after any premium live event, that's kind of what the wrestling world is talking about. So we'll jump in. We'll talk about it. Lots of different wrestlers to kind of break down which way they're going. I think wrestling is just in a good spot. And I was thinking about this because, you know, you have whenever you have injuries, obviously, or people take time off, it can deflate a little bit from that. We've seen kind of Liv Morgan. That was really an unfortunate injury that kind of took her out. But I often go back to wrestling kind of struggled when Roman Reigns left because of his leukemia. Which again, I mean, thank God he got over and it didn't take that long, but it didn't take that long for me to feel like, okay, your main event here is missing. And maybe because the primary storyline has kind of been around Cody Rhodes, the fact that Cody's been on TV and hasn't missed anything, maybe that kind of makes up for it. It just feels like without Roman since WrestleMania, wrestling has done very well this time around. And so it's just a lot more interesting. And that's something you're always going to have to do. If you remember, Vince McMahon back in the days, you know, sometimes you wonder, why aren't these wrestling stars getting as big as they were when Hulk Hogan was doing it or Stone Cold or The Rock? And at a certain point, I think even Vince McMahon said, you don't want to build them up that high because eventually you have to pay them out of this world to kind of get them to come back. So it's a little bit interesting to see how they kind of juggle a lot of different personalities and where they're kind of putting them at. But it just feels like there's a lot there for the new fan that's kind of getting into it, new people to cheer for. There's always kind of these call-ups, and I think they're pushing the new talent rather well. And then you're kind of old school fans and get into it. John Cena running with the title, and now Goldberg coming back as well. So I just feel like the wrestling, as we do a wrestling show here, sometimes it can get into a pattern of just, all right, we're waiting for the next premium live event. And again, because they have so many of these different contracts to pay off, whether it be Netflix or Peacock or USA Network or, you know, NBC when on the Saturday night main event, there's just always interesting things going on in these shows. So I just say all that to say, I mean, wrestling's been good. And again, I always say this if you're listening out there, because everybody goes through their paths. I think as a wrestling fan of kind of getting away from it from a little bit, that now is an excellent time to get back in if you haven't been watching.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, on top of that, like you mentioned the old guards. I mean, one of the big things that the WWE has that they haven't had is they have John Cena back. You know, they have CM Punk back. Those are two guys that are capable of just they're on, you know, if there's not a lot of guys that are on Roman Reigns' levels, right? And those are two guys that I think are on his level or above. And that's very rare. And like you said, I mean, what they're doing, you know, with Seth Rollins' faction, you know, Braun Breaker, Dominic Mysterio, even though he's not he's huge, but he's kind of not featured all the time. Like he's not wrestling. He's either like on a backstage show. In the women's division, as much as we kind of talk about it, I mean, Rhea Ripley's kind of the Roman Reigns of that. Liv Morgan, as you mentioned, Tiffany Stratton's doing her thing over there. So yeah, I agree. There's some good stuff. There are times, I think just last year we were kind of talking about it where if you'd asked me if I was excited, as a wrestling fan, I still like watching Raw and SmackDown, but there were times where I was like, I'm going to watch it, and we're going to talk about it, things like that. But right now, yeah, I'm like, okay, Monday at 7, I'm, planning my dinner around it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to eat for the first 5 minutes, watch it, and SmackDown too for that. So I do agree, they're doing some great stuff. And, the one thing I'll say kind of about Night of Champions, I was maybe a little disappointed about is it's Night of Champions, but only 2 championships were defended, so that was kind of the big thing there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are getting into wrestling and, you've got the Logan Pauls, the, I'm blanking on them, but they're the New Day, kind of people that have built like social media outside of it to bring in non-wrestling fans. So yeah, that's a perfect timing. And now with Saturday Night Main Event, that's kind of a premium live event that's going on every month now. So it's like you don't have these breaks, that you used to, like every premium live event every month or 2 months. Now there's something happening every 2 weeks. And championships are changing on Raw. The premium live event, like you said, Saturday night, Gunther and Goldberg. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about as a wrestling fan right now.
Yeah, the only one I think the one thing that is lacking a little bit is the tag team division.
Yes.
I've noticed that as I've kind of watched wrestling and just kind of viewing it over the last couple of weeks is that's kind of starting to be my popcorn match, and that's not inherently. Sometimes the tag team division can just get lost in that, and it's not inherently because of the format. I mean, tag team wrestling can be fantastic. It just sometimes gets in a little bit of a lull, and so part of it, the women's tag team is not being defended. Obviously, with Liv Morgan being hurt, they're going to find a way to kind of crown a new champion. It looks like in that way, but the other thing, New Day's just not defending, and they beat the War Raiders at WrestleMania, and that already wasn't all that inspiring. So it's kind of weird because I think they've got, like you talk about, kind of somewhat old guard in New Day, and at least holding the belts. And then on the opposite end of it, you've got Montez Ford, and trying to think of their tag team
Dawkins,
name.
the Street Profits.
Street Profits. Yeah. But I mean, and so those are two of the better tag teams that they have, and just over and proven tag teams they have. So that would be the one thing I'd say they have to work on a little bit, and we'll see if they get into doing that. But let's go ahead and jump into Night of Champions as we break it down. Kind of give us your thought. We gave you our thoughts about it all together. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Opening up Night of Champions was Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Of course, you wouldn't call it a rivalry. It's more of a friendship over the years from their days in Legacy. And of course, they did have a splitting at one time, so they were they did fight at one time when Randy Orton was thrown out of that. But it all kind of came to a conclusion. We saw it this week. It was kind of put together. Cody Rhodes beat Jey Uso in the main event of Raw to qualify, and I thought that was a really good match. In both these matches, you're kind of waiting. Are they setting up a heel turn? Is there something, because the final four were all good guys? You remember Randy Orton defeated Sami Zayn to get to this point. So that I think that intrigue was always there. It's kind of like the ultimate good guy team getting to the final four. And then here we were, and it was kind of interesting to see, was there going to be a heel turn? And it was a little bit short of a heel turn, but there were heel tactics that Randy Orton had to kind of find inside himself, considered using the punt, delayed on it, and then and that caught up to him for delaying on that, was never able to land the punt. Also grabbed a steel chair, was considering using that, but used that to distract the referee and exposing the turnbuckle, which ultimately cost him, as Cody Rhodes was able to push Randy Orton into that exposed turnbuckle and then hit the crossroads for the win. So it's kind of an exciting match. I thought they was a well placed on the card. Obviously, it was a great opener. The crowd was on fire for both of their entrances, so that definitely helped as well. But now we know Cody Rhodes wins King of the Ring, and now gets to take his chance at SummerSlam against John Cena or CM Punk at the time. Yeah, and like you said, it was a fantastic opener. Crowd was into it. It was weird because they were very into the openings, right? But
kind of spots here in the US, like when somebody reverses an STF, or something like that, the crowd, I noticed, didn't know how to react to those moves. And it's kind of like, the Michael Cole and them were like, oh, and he's doing his move. And there was dead silence. I was like, that's a little awkward there. But yeah, the whole, the flashlight moment where they both kind of stopped and looked on there. So yeah, great crowd. That and like you said, great match. And it's kind of showing that both of them are potentially looking at a heel turn, because as Cody Rhodes, as much as, he's kind of the ultimate good guy right now, he's got everything going with John Cena and things like that. That's how he lost his championship. And now he's kind of also using, like you said, the turnbuckle. He's kind of using ways that good guys normally don't to win. So, I mean, and Randy Orton, I think he's going to crash out. I think that's coming. So I'm expecting that. But yeah, I thought this was a really good match. Very, we talk about it, we complain about it, but it's the way it needed to go. Very obvious who was going to win this one. You got to go with Cody Rhodes, because SummerSlam, we got 2 months to SummerSlam. You got to start building that one up on there. And Cody Rhodes just seemed to be the guy. But I am curious, because at the end of the match, they interviewed Cody Rhodes because he was the king of the ring, all that stuff. And you kind of see Randy Orton in the background, just like really upset that he lost. So, Orton's going to come into factor in that again.
Yeah, remember, and I think this is kind of leading up to it, is that Orton promised he would do anything to win the number 15 title for him. Whatever it took is what he said. And so maybe that was just referring to the tactics that we were talking about in the ring, or maybe that's for the future, looking down the line and turning heel on Cody at some point. And I think, as we surpass SummerSlam, you have, if Cody does indeed, and this is what it's kind of setting up again, is Cody Rhodes going after John Cena at SummerSlam. Maybe they can have a little bit of better match than they had at WrestleMania, but that's going to be the headliner. And again, that kind of can use the story that Cody has been telling, or the story of Cody Rhodes that has been the central theme of wrestling over the last several years. So it makes sense, like you said, that Cody would win this thing. But I still think this is too short to use it, because I said it before. They needed to have Cody and Randy go. Randy needed to turn heel on Cody when he had the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he doesn't have the belt now. So was this all that we're going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Probably not. When Cody gets the belt again, I'm assuming from John Cena, then I think we could have a feud between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton that will be fantastic, as shown in this match. It was a very good match, but we'll see. What do you like? We've kind of talked over the years, even with Cody Rhodes, that. And maybe it was just because we were more interested in the bloodline, the Roman Reigns side of it. So we weren't as into the American Nightmare. I have to say, I went to a park this week with my son. Was very happy to hear one of the other kids chanting out the American Nightmare song. So he's definitely catching on. Are you in favor of another a SummerSlam revolved around Cody Rhodes going after John Cena to get his title back?
See, I'm a little bit different. Like I appreciate everything he's doing, right? And I see he's one of the top guys. But man, I think with all like Randy Orton, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, all these guys kind of be in the mix, I'd kind of rather prefer them do something. Because if, ultimately down the road, let's say Cody Rhodes is the guy that takes the belt back from Cena, is that really how we kind of wanted Cena's last reign to end? That's not something as a John Cena fan that I'd want there too. But that is pretty cool that you heard somebody yelling that thing, because you don't hear that often, right? We say the WWE world, we talk about it, all that stuff, but it's not something a lot of people are always openly, talking about.
It's not mainstream like the, DX or the Stone Cold in the 90s.
Yeah, things like that. Not, outside of John Cena and that, I mean, nobody's going to go around saying "yeet" anymore. That's I say that's like 2015. There's not a lot of catchphrases. I think everybody knows what an RKO is. They know who John Cena is, obviously, but outside of that, I mean, you're kind of, The Rock, but yeah, that's kind of it, for that. So that's pretty cool to hear them. But I don't know. I mean, they'd have to do a little bit more. It's the same thing with him. He's the ultimate good guy. He comes in for the save. I'm not sold on his finisher. I mean, they joke about his finisher. Roman Reigns wasn't wrong. That thing does not look like, we talk about that believability, right? Yeah. On that, if that's even a word. I just made that up there. But it's just not, as realistic as a lot of the other ones. And that's, I think, something that just takes away is he does the cookie cutter is essentially what you call it, at times. Crossroads. And that's
Well, and he does. He's not an incredible in-ring performer, but that jump he does off the ropes to kind of DDT somebody out of nowhere, I think that's a better finisher. I always kind of feel it's weird when I watch a wrestler and think that should be their finisher.
Yep.
But it's not, and they kind of go with something weaker. I always thought that for years with Cesaro when he would throw people up and then elbow them. That was something like only he could do with the height that he got on those guys. I always thought that should have been his finisher. It never was, and of course they never really pushed Cesaro all that much, so maybe that was part of it. But it's a problem for me. The Crossroads has been something of a disconnect for me through Cody Rhodes' run, but I am happy to see him become a little bit more. Get to the point that I can hear kids kind of talk about him because they have put a lot into Cody Rhodes, and of course. That whole story, remember, starting over, coming back from AEW, making his name over there. Still very cool and historic. But where does it end? At some point, as cool as it is, even, again, you and I, not the biggest fans, but the wrestling world really taking it in. At some point, they're going to turn a corner. And so what's that going to mean next for Cody Rhodes? How are you going to turn that? And at some point, I still think it's a little bit ways away, but a heel turn would be fun. Yeah. To kind of spice things up at some point with him. So let's move on to the Riyadh Boulevard Street fight. Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. Of course, I think they had to add the fact that it was a street fight to make this deemed worthy of a premium live event type of match. Kendo sticks were used on Raquel Rodriguez's behalf. Rhea Ripley, her weapon of choice was her belt that she took off and really laid them into Raquel there. The storyline kind of continue here with Roxanne Perez, who's trying to get into the Judgment Day, seemingly getting more favor with Raquel Rodriguez every episode we see them in. She interfered, but it wasn't enough as Rhea Ripley was able to overcome her and then do a riptide on top of a table in the corner of the ring, which was very cool. I can't remember what they call it, a landslide riptide or something. Yeah. They put a different nice name on it, but it was really cool. But again, the only problem with this was this matchup necessary to begin with? If Raquel won, are we really interested in another version of Judgment Day against Rhea Ripley without Liv Morgan, especially at this point? I don't know. I mean, Roxanne Perez could make it a little bit more interesting if they built her up a little bit more. But Rhea had to win this one. She did. And now you kind of wonder what's next for her as Evolution is around the corner here, just 2 weeks away from that, the all-women's premium live event. And she's, like we said, maybe their hottest star, and I don't know who she's going to face in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the horribly promoted Evolution that's supposed to be this big thing. I'm just going to say this. The one thing about having your premium live event in Saudi Arabia is the 6 female spectators that you saw throughout the whole thing, and then you throw in a women's match. To me, if you're going to go there, I hate why, like you said, they did this street match, but I mean, the crowd was like 99.9% men, just because of how it is over there.
Than the 90% usual that's
over
here.
Yeah. So it is, but like the difference is, you see like the little girls with the little boys, all that. You didn't see any of that here. So that's kind of the one, thing you still got to get used to when seeing that as a crowd. But with this, I think Raquel Rodriguez has kind of been doing better without Liv Morgan. I think the episode of Raw, was it where she kind of got the one up on Rhea that looks strong, and she looks strong here too. I agree. I like the Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez pairing. I think they're going to go with just kind of Judgment Day 2.0 of it. They have to put that belt on someone else, or someone else has to take the belt, or they're probably going to lose it. So they're going with that storyline. But Rhea Ripley, you knew she was going to win this one. She just doesn't lose feuds that often. For this, I would probably assume, because the post-match, she's pretty much, she called out people who said, she's always going after titles. She came out and she said, well, if I'm not trying to be the champion, what am I doing here? So she's like, I'm a 28-year-old vet. I'm going after titles. I assume that means she's probably going to challenge Io Sky again at Evolution, which is, like you said, 2 weeks away. So would that make Saturday Night Live? Would that make that in like 3 weeks, a week?
So it's going to be it's a busy weekend of wrestling. Saturday night main event is July 12th. Evolution is July 13th. So good luck for everybody that needs to convince the people in their life that they need to dedicate that whole weekend to wrestling.
Yeah, that's wild. On that, we'll see how that goes. It was already rough on WrestleMania because it was Easter weekend and things like that. They got
SummerSlam's 2 nights.
Yeah, they got to book that a little bit better for us. Us normal folks who have normal lives and families out there. We're trying our best to keep up with it on there. But yeah, I think Rhea versus Io Sky. I know Evolution is going to be it's an all women's pay-per-view, but I mean, I don't know. Do you give the title back to Rhea because she is the star, and Io? When was the last time Io Sky was in a match? They haven't done anything with her as champion. She wasn't even featured on this card,
Yeah, and it looked like obviously she was headed toward a match with Liv Morgan.
Yeah,
and that all.
That was Morgan going there. So I mean, and they're kind of putting more of a storyline on the Tiffany, because Naomi's got the Money in the Bank. She's going, and then Jay, all that stuff. So it's like Io's once again, she's a great competitor. They're not doing anything with her with that title. So I kind of am afraid that Rhea is going to probably challenge her and take that title back to kind of bring it back to what it needs to be.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think you're right, though. I mean, we always talk about, too, how there's a difference between chasing a title and being a title holder. And it's really hard as a title holder to have your reign be as good as your chase.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if they're going to kind of start a story with Rhea where she's had the title enough that, she's just chasing the title up to WrestleMania, maybe fails to get it done at SummerSlam for one way or the other. But I think that would be more intriguing to kind of put Rhea back in the chase.
Mm-hmm.
But I think without Liv, you got to kind of distance her from, Raquel Rodriguez and the Judgment Day at this point, because, we've been there, done that. So we saw that once again here. Speaking of unnecessary matches, Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross, for some reason, after months of backstage promos, they finally heated up to the point they needed to get a match out there. Now Sami Zayn, obviously, the locals there really, enjoy him. So you were kind of putting a hero of theirs out there. So that was kind of good. Karrion Kross needed this win more than anything, because his character is always just whispering and really is just all bark, no bite whatsoever. They try to make him look menacing every time they try to do something with him. I mean, the whole Final Testament thing, you put some big guys around him. They never got much of a push. And now here he is after months of promos of whispering to Sami Zayn and seeming like, okay, it feels like they're setting up a plan, and it all was just for Sami Zayn. It's a fine matchup, but like I said, in ring, Karrion Kross is fine. Sami Zayn's always good. He hits a haluva kick in the corner out of nowhere, the way that they kind of showed it there to defeat Kross. But every time I've seen a Karrion Kross feud, it's just I'm so done with it or disinterested in him because of the way. I mean, he loses every one of them.
Yeah, and the worst part is he was finally getting some fan behind him because the promos, he's kind of he's the biggest instigator for everything, right? He's just lighting gas on every feud. He is behind everybody. The thing I will say I'm maybe afraid of is I think his contract is coming up, and you don't know, they have not done a good job with him. I mean, we talked about his debut in the main roster. They shaved his head and put a mask on him and just ruined it.
Awful.
He was. We don't watch NXT, but hearing about this guy, he was supposedly one of the most dominant NXT champions. He just championed for like a year or something like that, just dominant.
Great entrance.
Yes, and I mean, his wife alongside him. I mean, that's a different story. Things like that. But he had everything. Then they shave his head and put him behind a mask and just change his character. And it seems like since that happened, he just couldn't do anything. And on there, I agree with you. He needed to win this. I know Sami Zayn, he's the good guy, all that stuff. Really champion for the Middle East, I think, is kind of something like that. And so you kind of think, they might go that way with it. But man, Karrion Kross, I have to believe he's not going to resign, and he's probably going to jump ship to AEW with his wife. And then you'll hear he probably does something good over there, and then that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, it is strange because he just seems like a guy. And I know some people, I talked to wrestling fans, and they see it too. It's like there's potential there, but it just kind of, again, it goes just back to the that he does such a good job with his promos and kind of looking like a menacing character. He looks like a tough guy you wouldn't want to meet. And it doesn't have any like big hole in his game that you're kind of thinking, well, this is what's holding him back. It's just the booking. The booking always catches up to him. And again, this was a match I didn't feel like was necessary.
No.
Certainly not on a premium live event. Might have been a popcorn match if I was watching an episode of Raw. And so it wasn't all that interested in it. And at the very least, I thought, well, maybe they can give Karrion Kross something because he needs this. Sami Zayn comes into this feud well, in his position, well over Karrion Kross. And then so he beats him. Then, okay, what? That's kind of what we expected.
Yep.
And so does this have more to it? I hope not. Again, that's where I get to the point with Karrion Kross where it's like, well, I just don't feel like we're ever going to pay off anything. And at this point, his character, unless you kind of have the story of this guy's such a loser and then becomes a winner, like they almost need to change his gimmick because his just this threatening, menacing guy that's plotting in the back that never wins in the ring. I'm just over it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of Baron Corbin. They did more with Baron Corbin, but this was a guy everybody loved. He apparently he's like the best guy to work with. Safest, had the most respect. They were pushing him, and then I don't know what went wrong, and then they turned him into that gambling loser or something like that. They put him with JBL. That he did the whole big dog. I think he got the dog food with Roman Reigns. It's like they just completely buried that, and it's Baron Corbin, Zack Ryder, Cesaro. You can kind of put Karrion Kross in there, and they had the opportunity here. Sami Zayn was beloved there.
Yeah,
talk about an opportunity. You could have made Karrion Kross one of your biggest heels, have him pin Sami Zayn, out over there in Saudi Arabia and just soak it up. I mean, he'd come back with so much heat, and that would have been a great storyline. But now, I mean, if he shows up on Monday or Friday, I would be very surprised. And like you said, I mean, we've joked about it. If he comes out with an hourglass and puts it on somebody after a match again, it's going to be a loss, and it's going to be a waste of 3 months before they finally get a match where he loses.
Yeah. It's they need to find something to do with him there. As for Sami, it's interesting. Maybe this was just a match to kind of heat him up for the Royal Rumble in January. Now that's a long way off, but that's Riyadh. They're going to do that in Saudi Arabia as well. So, obviously he, like we said, was getting a great crowd reaction. And so, maybe you're just kind of building him up more there in Saudi Arabia to be one of the favorites once they get to the Royal Rumble. And I'm not saying Sami will win, but at least, some sort of crowd reaction. But maybe he will. I don't know. That's a long ways away. Let's get to the United States Championship match here on the other side. We got to take a quick break. Then we'll get to Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. We've also got the Queen of the Ring final, as well as CM Punk and John Cena to talk about. We'll do all that next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Attention baseball and softball players. The Nebraska Dominators are looking to add players to their baseball and softball teams for the 2026 season. Tryouts are happening now for all age groups, ranging from 7 years old to 14 and under for baseball and 7 years old to 18 and under for softball. Visit the Nebraska Dominators Facebook page for more information today.
Hey guys, you have heard about the Farrell's 10-week challenge for years on The Ticket. If you still haven't joined us for this amazing challenge, what are you waiting for? You could be our next $1,000 winner like Derek, who just lost 30 pounds, 23 inches, and 8% body fat. Derek changed his life in the 10-week challenge, and so can you. Farrell's combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching to get you the results you have been waiting for. Join us July 12th for the Summer 10-Week Challenge. Go to fxblincoln.com to enroll today.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? Do you need a lawyer you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion? The attorneys at Liberty Law understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Contact us for a free consultation by calling 877-42-LIBERTY. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Are kids better off in an intact family? You bet they are. This is Joe Cordell of the domestic litigation firm Cordell & Cordell. Kids living in a household with married parents do better in school, they're emotionally healthier, and they're more likely to stay out of trouble with the law. If you're in a troubled marriage, of course you should do everything you can to save your marriage, if only for your kids' sake. This includes considering alternatives to divorce. Of course, in some circumstances, divorce is unavoidable. In either case, if you're a man facing a crisis in your marriage, let us help you at Cordell & Cordell. Remember, we're the partner men can count on.
The attorneys at Cordell & Cordell work to help men maximize their role in their children's lives. Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Lincoln area attorneys, a partner men can count on. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Office in downtown Lincoln, Cordell & Cordell, 1221 N Street, Suite 801, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68508.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Coppell Chevrolet GMC, and the hail sale has been a huge success, but is winding down. We still though have several units with huge discounts. Plus, we have brand new Sierras, $14,000 off list, or starting at $37,105, or 0.9% APR on select new models. Yes, you heard right. $14,000 off or 0.9% APR on new Sierras starting at $37,105. So please check us out at CoppellCars.com. All deals with roof credit. Stock number G2893358.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Mike, the insurance company wants us to replace the roof.
Wait, what? I thought everything was fine.
Yeah, it says right here our roof is too old and they won't be able to cover us anymore.
I guess it is 15 years old. Hi, I'm Austin with Roofing Service Company. We help homeowners with their roofing and siding projects. Financing options are available, and we can get you under a new roof no time at all. If this sounds like you, visit roofingservicecompany.com. That is roofingservicecompany.com.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket as we're going through Night of Champions. We already talked about Cody Rhodes defeating Randy Orton to win King of the Ring, Rhea Ripley beating up Raquel Rodriguez in a Boulevard Street fight, and Sami Zayn defeating Karrion Kross. And we're right to the point of the United States Championship match between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. I predicted that Jacob Fatu would win this and they would move on from this storyline. I am not in so much luck there because I'm not a big fan of the storyline, but Augie, you are. So it's always interesting as we kind of have differences of opinions in the WWE universe. So this thing was a good enough match as it was going, but of course, at some point you were going to see Solo Sikoa's buddies come in. JC Mateo came, and then we got the return of Tonga Loa, who hadn't seen quite in a while, but it did not seem like it was going to be enough. Jacob Fatu was still in the lead here and almost about to win. He even went for the pin, and that is when we saw the debut of the big 7-footer Tala Tonga, which I don't think they named him in the broadcast, but as I've understand, that's what he's going to go by. Not to be confused with Tama Tonga or Tonga Loa. So good luck trying to keep up with all these bloodline names. But in any case, ultimately there was just one too many bodies and one too many 7-footer there in the ring. Solo Sikoa is able to use his thumb. I forget the Samoan Spike.
The Samoan Spike. Yeah, there you
Samoan
go.
Spike on Fatu to get the win. Solo's first singles title in his career, and Jacob Fatu's run as U.S. champion ends what you would think is prematurely. Now, I think this is all going to be set up for Jacob Fatu to get his revenge on Solo Sikoa, so that can be interesting enough. But he's going to have to get a group of folks around him, because this looks like maybe another iteration of the Bloodline, which is interesting because Solo came out this week. I think it was a new song, or I couldn't quite tell, but it was kind of it was kind of like a separating from the family type of song, talking to, kind of, it's just me who's type of situation, but it was something like it was really cheesy because it was just a song about his current storyline. But in any case, And so I thought that maybe they were going away from that, but ultimately they get back into this. Again, a good step in means of continuing the feud here. I just think Jacob Fatu is red hot, and maybe they could have stopped the feud here, but they've obviously got the talent. Tala Tonga, the 7-footer, has been in WWE developmental for a year now. So they've got that going for them, and they wanted to pay that off. My interest is, of course, my favorite of the second bloodline is Tama Tonga, and he did not return here. He's still injured, and I was wondering because he, as we have last seen it, was more kind of on Jacob Fatu's side. Then he got injured. So if he returns, would he be more apart with Solo Sikoa? But you see this heading a different direction where Jacob Fatu might have to recruit a few different folks to help him against this third version of the bloodline.
Yeah. So first off, if I wouldn't have hurt my dumb toe, I would have been here to tell you. I thought, this is exactly what was going to happen last week on there. So my Solo getting him a win. That's good. But yes, Jimmy has been coming out and been helping Jacob the last couple weeks. When we kind of talk about SmackDown, we'll bring that up a little bit more. But hey, Jay's not doing anything anymore. He's not a champion. I didn't notice this, but Jimmy and Jay still have essentially the same intro. I think just Jay's, they've kind of remixed it because it's still that Uso, and I noticed that on Friday, and I may be completely wrong, but I was like, is this Jay or is this Jimmy that's coming out? But it wasn't doing like the day one, that. So, they're kind of bringing that back in. And, there's a guy named Roman Reigns that's going to, kind of be waiting to come back. SummerSlam coming around. You don't really see him in the title picture, although I would have loved Roman Reigns versus John Cena at some point, down this road. But I have a feeling we're not going to probably see that because I think Roman's too much of a part-timer now with everything going on. So, yeah, I think that in order for Jacob to get his revenge, it's going to be Bloodline 3.0 versus the original Bloodline again, but this time, as we kind of talked a little bit behind the scenes and off air, I think Solo needs to come out on top of that one, or else you have him the head of two bloodlines, copycat bloodlines, lesser versions, and he loses. That's not good. So yeah, I think in the next coming months, you'll have Jimmy J and then eventually Roman Reigns coming in to help take back not even the Ula Fala anymore. You can't even call that. Just help him try to take out Solo again.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I said it. I just the problem I have with this new bloodline, and we'll see. They didn't even necessarily call it that, but you've got a lot of folks that are related outside of JC Mateo there. And I think it's interesting to see what Tala Tonga is going to be able to do. They've had 7-footers that really just don't pass the test and don't make it, and so just because he's got the height doesn't mean he's automatically going to be a good wrestler. But half of this bloodline, JC Mateo and Tonga Loa, have absolutely what the kids say is no aura. And they don't. And so they're gonna find a way. But now, at one time, maybe Solo, you could probably say, had that going against him, and now he's kind of been able to revitalize that. So maybe in a storyline, you can kind of find a way to get the best out of those two. But I'm just not all that interested in a group that's partially comprised of JC Mateo and Tonga Loa.
Yeah.
So I just think they've got a ways to go to make that group look menacing. All the meanwhile, Solo's already got the championship. So it'll be interesting to see what they do from here. Again, obviously, I think this does end up with Fatu winning it back. But I wouldn't have minded, and maybe there's just not room at the top of the card of taking advantage of how popular Jacob Fatu is right now, and putting him toward the top of the card. But it looks like we're going to be here, and that's fine though. At least it's long-term storytelling that keeps us all interested. So I'm not as excited about it, but I'm excited enough about seeing what's next here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw this out there. Your king of Andre the Giant winner, Bronson Reed, we'll blame him for JC Mateo coming in because he was supposed to be with this. I don't know what the plans were for the future, but he was a part of the Bloodline 2.0. Or whatever they were calling it these days. So they had to bring in
ultimate payoff for the bloodlines against each other included CM Punk and him for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, it's they lose the plot sometimes, but I have a feeling they'll bring it back in. But I 100% agree with you. We kind of talked Rhino 2.0 and JC Mateo, lesser version, looks just like him. I'm sorry. I know he's only been a month, But talk about I don't even know what that really means. I just think it maybe.
Well, there's nobody responds or like there has to be somewhere sort of a care factor.
Yeah.
When it comes to the ring, you're just like whatever.
He looks like a cutscene character or like a creative character that went wrong. You kind of just forget. I'm sorry. I know they were saying his accolades. He's like a Japan champion, all that stuff. He just doesn't have the WWE what it takes right now. And, like you said, they could do something, but he just looks like the most boring, I hate to do this, but kind of like the oh my gosh, who are they? They were with AJ Styles for the longest time.
The Good Brothers?
The Good Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I know they were fun. They were with but you got to admit, they're like the most generic tag team, and JC Mateo is like the most generic created, 2K WWE, wrestler you could have out there that's just along for the ride right now.
And they're trying to give him some wins. He did get that win over Jimmy,
Yeah.
but we'll just see. I don't know. We'll see. I'm again still interested in Jacob Fatu, so at least he can carry that.
Yeah.
Solo's been getting better now with the belt. His first single title run. We'll see what happens there. And it's at least exciting. It's at least something kind of new to see where they go next with it. But we've spent too much time talking about JC Mateo and Karrion Kross and complaining about them. So we better move on. Queen of the Ring final, Asuka and Jade Cargill. Very interested in that. I predicted Asuka was going to win here to give Io Sky, a battle there and kind of go back to the damage control days. They went with Jade Cargill. And the in-ring action on this was not great. And Asuka is a great pro wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen in this return, just the way that she's able to get the crowd behind her way more. I mean, this was kind of a face versus a face.
Yeah.
Neither one of them necessarily, I guess, on either side. But, the crowd on especially Friday night and then in this match was cheering for Asuka without WWE necessarily telling them to. So you got to wonder if Cargill's ready, because obviously this means that she's going to have the opportunity to take on Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam, and that's going to be what you would want to be one of your main events. She looks fantastic. Obviously, the body work is fantastic. Yeah. The entrance is fun. I love the fact that she, always pays homage to Storm from X-Men. So there are parts about it that I like. I just don't know if she's ready. And then you throw in the fact that Naomi, with Money in the Bank, could factor in. I'm not sure. What I definitely don't want is Tiffany Stratton to lose to Jade Cargill and then Naomi cash in and and then we go back down the Naomi Jade Cargill road. But some people didn't tire of that as much as I did. So again, that's more of a personal preference. But from a kind of a getting back to the crux of the issue, that's not more of a personal preference. It's just, is Jade Cargill ready to carry the women's championship or to even fight for it, to take that big of a place on the card here?
I hate to say it, but no, she just botches too much. Like on Monday against Roxanne, or Friday against Roxanne Perez. Mm-hmm. The previous week when when they wrestled, it was Roxanne Perez who just came on from NXT, was kind of saving the match, was calling the spots. Jade Cargill she's like you said, she got the look. I mean, holy cow, talk about abs. Jade Cargill has like the most defined abs I've ever seen on a person. And she's like close to 6 foot, I think, so she's got everything about it. Just you mentioned it. Some 7-footers come in and they're not great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it looks like Jade Cargill is just not doing it. And she's now been on the main roster for about 2 years. Because you look at the difference between Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton. They came on together. We talked dream match is going to be when they go against each other. Well, Tiffany Stratton's already gotten the belt because she's ready. She's more athletic in the ring, just looks better in the ring. And Jade Cargill still, I mean, I was totally shocked because I thought we were heading for Asuka, Queen of the Ring, Asuka, Io Sky. That's kind of the story they were trying to tell us. And then they turn around, they give it to Jade Cargill. And I mean, I was sitting there like, she kind of didn't deserve that. Like Asuka kind of carried that one. And like you said, now it's her versus Tiffany, but Tiffany's kind of been, luckily she's done with Nia Jax now, no offense on that, but now she's got Naomi, and like you said, that storyline is going to get put there, and we thought that storyline should have been over after WrestleMania when Jade beat her, ended it, that should have been it, but nope. Naomi won the belt or the case and the briefcase, and we kind of know what's probably going to happen come SummerSlam.
Now, I will give Jade Cargill a credit that her promos are getting a little bit better, which I wouldn't. wasn't a huge. I mean, it wasn't a huge concern to begin with. It's just the in-ring action, really that we'll see if she is able to improve on. But they're ready to push her. We'll see what happens. Will be an exciting match, at least on paper. We'll see if they're able to deliver a good match as well. Once we get to SummerSlam. All right, we'll take a quick break. We've got one more match to talk about: CM Punk and John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship. We'll also quickly go over Raw and SmackDown when we return on Nuclear Heat.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. To honor the new store opening, A1 is offering $25 off any service over $300, $50 off services over $500, and $75 off services that total over $750, all through July 31st. Schedule your appointment today at A1AutoLincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive.
Who are you?
I'm the Truck Fairy.
You mean the Tooth Fairy?
No, Truck Fairy. I appear when someone dreams about winning one of the 8 new trucks in the Nebraska Lottery's Trucks and Bucks scratch game.
Oh, so you leave Trucks and Bucks tickets under my pillow?
No.
Cash?
Sorry.
What exactly do you do?
Remind people to play today.
Don't think I need a Truck Fairy for that.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Play Trucks and Bucks from your Nebraska Lottery. Top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
Rick Heyman here from Sauter Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sauter Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at SauterHeyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Spring sports are here and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine. At Fairway Meat Market, you're family, and as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Now, through June 29th, get lumberjack pellets for $3.99 when you buy $25 in meat, and a 2-day sale this Friday and Saturday of USDA choice whole boneless ribeye for $13.99 per pound, as well as pork sausage for $1.99 per pound. That's all at Fairway Meat Market in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
Nebraska Veterans Aid is here for veterans and dependents facing unforeseen financial emergencies. Get assistance with food, fuel, shelter, clothing, transportation, and even funeral and medical expenses. If you're a veteran facing a financial emergency, apply for Nebraska Veterans Aid through your county veteran service officer. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/NVA. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Why are some people more successful? Is it talent and determination, or did they recognize an opportunity? Discover a career that lets you help families reach their financial goals as you build lasting professional relationships. One with unlimited income potential. From Modern Woodman, a leading fraternal financial services provider.
I'm Modern Woodman Regional Director Sean Erickson. Call me at 402-483-6515 to learn about career opportunities.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven alongside Nuclear Heat contributor Augie Pena as we're going through Night of Champions. And yeah, it was a short card, but it's lasted all 3 segments for us. So we are talkative tonight, and we'll keep it going here with the undisputed WWE Championship match between CM Punk and John Cena. Of course, a long-standing rivalry in the WWE. And we were talking about it during the break. You enjoyed what they did on SmackDown with CM Punk doing the Doctor of Thugonomics promo against John Cena. This was in retaliation to John Cena's pipe bomb promo against CM Punk. So I thought that was interesting. I think if you don't take it too seriously, it was fun. If you try to take it seriously, CM Punk looked ridiculous.
Yeah, he did. But come on, man. This is the WWE. You can't take anything seriously, you know. But like I told you, I just wanted to hear that theme song one more time, the Doctor of Thugonomics. And I mean, CM Punk, I agree. He looked horrible. And it was horrible. And he messed up a lot of lines, but just him coming out to it was just, I thought it was perfection. And, you know, I know it got a great reaction online and that's all we wanted to see, man. Let's just hear that theme song come out one time. Maybe John will do it one time, but you know, we got CM Punk doing it. So that's a win.
So I thought it was a good build-up in the very least to this match here. Couple overdone things that I think that we saw here with the referee being taken out in just about every match. You know, like they did that with Randy Orton the last title defense. I don't like the crowd's chanting 3, and now CM Punk and Randy Orton should have beat John Cena, so you did that. Now, the second referee being taken out was Charles Robinson when Seth Rollins came out and tried to cash in. And Charles Robinson got absolutely obliterated by John Cena. And I saw somebody online say that's going to be a meme for years. And it probably should be. Baby Nate, as he's known, Charles Robinson, the longtime referee, was just destroyed. But it's funny when they do these referee spots, because if Charles Robinson's back there waiting with Seth Rollins, why didn't he come out already?
Yeah.
And if these referees keep being taken out, why doesn't WWE, the company? Because you remember, we're not watching just a wrestling match. We're watching a company run a wrestling promotion. And why don't they ever think about having another referee ringside? I guess that would ruin the way they do it a lot of this time. But so I thought that was a little bit overdone. And then I thought they also overbooked this a little bit with Penta and Sami Zayn coming out, you know, especially after Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins coming out with his music, that was big, maybe not completely unexpected, but of course him, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman came into the ring. It looked like we might get a triple threat out of it. As usual, again, overdone type of spot in not being able to quite cash in here as Penta and Sami Zayn came out. And I just think, especially after Seth Rollins came in, Penta and Sami Zayn aren't on that level. So it kind of, when you're going to have music hit and have a surprise interruption, it's got to elevate the match. And Penta is just kind of like, and I love Penta and I love the path that they have him on so far. It just wasn't ready for this type of involvement. And Sammy had already seen him. Yeah. And it kind of the same situation. He's just, I mean, his whole storyline is that he's not quite championship material. And so you have him come out here. And again, that's to kind of get, more into the story of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker and Penta specifically was told by Seth Rollins to stay out of his business. But I just didn't love that part of it. Ultimately, Rollins clocked Punk with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Cena capitalizes and gets the pinfall victory over Punk. And of course, Punk having his championship cost by Seth Rollins, I'm sure will bring more to that feud. I think that feud's going to come back here, which is fine. I think that's always a feud you can go back to. But also Seth Rollins and company with Penta, with Sami Zayn. I mean, they're just adding up too many adversaries of the good guys sort. That it's interesting as they don't have a team name yet, which I still think is a bit of a miscalculation by WWE. That we've got to kind of have something to call them. And then their goal is to cash in at some point for Seth. But they're making the goal a lot more difficult by attacking everybody. So it's kind of interesting the way that they're going about it. I think we all pretty much figured John Cena was going to win this one. How do you get there? Again, I thought it was a good match, a lot of fun spots, a little bit overbooked in a few different situations.
Yeah, and they didn't bring my boy LA Knight out, who's been a thorn, in their side. Of course, he just wasn't there, and they had to bring Sammy out, all that stuff. But I will say, in kind of defense of that, the WrestleMania night 2, the greatest ending of all time, I think kind of ruined a lot of these spots for us because that was kind of the ultimate overdue, but it was perfectly done, and that's essentially what as soon as all this happened, I thought they're repeating it for the Saudi Arabia fans. So I get that there on there. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I thought it was a really fun match. John Cena's still horrible at wrestling. I think at this point he has to be doing it at purpose because when they were going back and forth with the punches, he wasn't even coming close to hitting those.
This was a slow plotting match.
Yes,
I should say.
It really was. But I thought it was really fun. And Charles Robinson getting taken out by John Cena. Those memes have started, man. And his look when he's running down and he kind of sees Cena there. Oh man, it's just hilarious. I was not expecting that to happen. But yeah, I thought it was a really good main event. Like you said, overdone. But hey, the WWE, that's why we don't always talk about it with everybody, right? It's cheesy. They kind of overdo it. It's borderline embarrassing at times, and I thought, this had everything of it. And I thought it was a great way to end I would say a mediocre, premium live event.
Yeah. I thought it was entertaining enough for what it was, but I'm interested to see kind of what they do next year once we get to Saturday night main event. And that's one thing is that, and regardless what you think of Goldberg is, I think that kind of on the outskirts of it, that's the match I want to see more than any of these.
Yep.
So
yeah,
no, that's not to say Cody. It's just because that one's, it's hard to choose who's going to win that one, right? I kind of figured Cody was going to win King of the Ring. Kind of figured John Cena was going to win. So, those matches had the element of predictability in them, whereas Gunther and Goldberg might not. By the way, Gunther in his promo, they did back and forth promos here on Raw. Gunther in his promo said that he's going to make it his personal responsibility to make sure the legacy and myth of Bill Goldberg forever dies. And that received cheers.
Yeah.
So interesting to see what the WWE does because they've got a little bit of a split crowd on Goldberg, I suppose, as we get into that. The only other thing I think of really eventful from this past week is one, Aleister Black, the R-Truth, Ron Killingsteel. Looks like that's going to be what's up next there for Aleister Black. So that's kind of interesting and probably something they had to pivot here recently, obviously re-signing R-Truth. And then Julia defeated Zelina Vega for her first title. Zelina Vega's been in the company forever, just gets her first title run. Julia's in it for 2 minutes and gets her title run there. So kind of interesting. And that U.S. title just hasn't been too taken care of, I don't believe, in swapping the belt so quickly. And then the other one, I thought that was kind of interesting. I've got it on here somewhere. It was the Intercontinental side where Bayley and Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, appeared to try to help Bayley out, but ultimately let her frustration get the best of her. So probably headed toward a three-way battle between those three.
Yeah, that's what we're going with. And I'm going to change it all. Gunther has to beat Goldberg and has to be the person that retires him. Can you just imagine that, though? Because we talked about Gunther's kind of shaky, rocky. Whew, that would, he retired Goldberg, the man with the longest winning, streak of all time. Hey, that can maybe do something for a title run there.
Yeah. Put him at the top of the card so he can lose WrestleMania again. That's probably what we're heading toward. All right, that'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat tonight. We will be back next Sunday night. And as for the ticket, that'll wrap it up for our local programming. We'll send it out to national and be back bright and early for early break.
Your sprinklers are watering the street or flooding your backyard. If you're on a list